Hello, my name is Arthur, and in this video we're going to give a rundown on creating an isometric animation blender to Godot. This time I'm working in a project that's RTS style of graphic, so kind of along the lines of old Command and Conquer Red Alert. So what we're making is this soldier character who has animations for running in the different directions, and he has 8-way animation. So here's the soldier character, and we can get back to him after we look at how to make him. He's made from a sprite sheet and an animation player that has all of the animations for idle, moving, and shooting in each of the 8 directions. We'll get that out of the way. So we'll look at how to make this sprite sheet in this video. So we'll just jump into Blender and then into GIMP. Now for render settings on the camera, you need to bring some of your own Blender skills. You need to be able to do a render, set up your lighting a bit, and all of the camera settings I've covered in a previous video for Blender isometric camera settings. So we're not going to deal with that at all. We're just going to give a rundown on the graphic and the animation. We're not modeling also, because this model is super simple. What it is a basic toy character model, and each of his bits are separate, just different shapes of one cube that had a subsurf modifier applied to it, and I scaled it and moved it into different locations to make up this animatable character. And it's nothing grand, as you can see. It's extremely low poly character, and just enough to be able to animate. And the benefit of a toy character like this is it has no real mesh deformation. The rigging is standard IK rigging. We'll just clear his pose here and get an idea for his rigging. So let's turn him into a wireframe. So it's a basic IK rigging. I have previous rigging tutorials. There's tons out there for rigging and making a walk cycle and stuff like that. The benefit with the toy character is he's so easy to move around. Like, we could literally touch this character's foot to his face without any strange deformations in the character. So it's really quite animatable, especially for the small graphic that we're producing. The graphic in Godot is 64 by 64 pixels, so it's a really small graphic. So we'll just have a look at the animation as it is. It's a super simple walk cycle. It's made out of the passing pose and the contact pose. And you can see the model doesn't even have toes. It doesn't need them for something that's for a graphic as small as we're making it. Once you have a passing and a contact pose, you can just copy the poses and paste them flipped to come up with the other half of his 4-frame walk cycle. So that's his entire walk cycle. It consists of 4 frames of animation. Then he has an idle pose and a shoot pose, and nothing special here. There's nothing all that special about these poses. They're not even that great, and they don't need to be that great because our renders are quite small. So basically we're just going through a standard 8-direction render at this point. So we're going to grab the area lights, the camera, and the sun. So we're basically grabbing our camera and our lighting to revolve it around the 3D cursor, and everything is centered on the 3D cursor. And when we look through the camera, well, right now we have a 90 degree. So with the pivot point set to 3D cursor, we can rotate along Z by 45. And I can't do that because I'm not in object mode. So let's do that again. Rotate Z 45. And we want to work from the 8 direction angles. Now currently my Z it's been wound around a bit for the camera. So let's get that zeroed so that we can see the angles a little more clearly. So we're going to rotate Z minus 675. Now we'll look at the camera angle. It's off of its Z a little bit, so let's center it properly. It's only a tiny bit off. So with everything centered properly, we'll rotate Z minus 45. I generally start them in an east position, but it's not important where you start it from. Now we're going to render the animation into a folder. I've pre-selected a folder, so we're just going to go Control F12 to start the render, and we'll open up GIMP. I have a file already started for a sprite sheet, so let's see if we can find that, because it's already pre-set up. So that's the sprite sheet. We're making the height of the image to be 8 times the 64 pixel render size of the image, and configuring the grid. Oh, well, we're making the width of the image the 6 frame width. So we end up with an image size of 384 by 512. In view, we want to show a grid, snap to grid, and configure the grid for our image size of 64 by 64 pixels. And we can zoom out on that a little bit. And I'm just going to select and cut everything off of this image to demonstrate. So we'll open up our file with our animation in it. That was just rendered. And the images are there. Sometimes Linux has not generated the thumbnails, so it does that occasionally. And we're just going to use drag and drop. We'll drag and drop the 6 images into the east direction. So I treat each row as being one direction of the animation. It makes it clear to build the sprite sheet. And when we have the 6 images dropped onto the sprite sheet, we can merge the images. So merge visible layers, clip to bottom layer. That'll make it so it's only one layer again, and these are no longer selectable or movable, so they're going to stay put. We can come into Blender. We still have the lighting and the camera selected, so we just rotate Z 45 degrees, enter Control F12 to start rendering the next direction of the animation. And pretty much by the time we have GIMP opened up, or back in the foreground, and the folder back in the foreground, we're ready to start dragging the next direction onto the sprite sheet. So we drag these 6 images on, merge the visible layers, return to Blender, rotate, Control F12, generate the next direction of graphics, and drop them into the next row. We continue that process for the 8 directions. It actually goes fairly quickly to create this sprite sheet. With that done, we'll end up with a sprite sheet like this. It's exported as a PNG graphic and put into Godot and ready to be turned into a sprite sheet type of animation through the animation player. So in the next video, we'll have a look at the tank and its turret and how to get that animated in Godot. And until then, take care.